Mark Baldwin.
Ryan French.
Was it 2009? We've had this conversation many times.
Sure,
is it 2019 that I first caddied for you? 2020.
It was 2019.
And where was Chicago Highlands?
So we met at Q School. We actually officially met.
Oh yes.
The fall prior to that. That event was, I want to say June 2000. No, it must have been 2020.
Yeah.
It must have been 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we met in the Q School prior to that, and we had messaged back and forth on Twitter as your account was growing, and you're thorough and diligent in your reporting. So you obviously wanted the
Premium.
best sources,
yeah.
right? And so you came to me for a few things, and I tried to offer some insight, and probably you didn't use any of it, but then we met each other at Q School briefly, as I was kind of locked in on regaining some tour status, and that brought us to 2020.
So it was Chicago Highlands, and I got the Chicago Golf Tour, amateur tour in Chicago, reached out to me and asked to sponsor you for the week. I think they paid for your hotel, right?
They did, yeah.
Rate my caddying skills then to now.
All right. Then it was more of just a tourist gig for you then.
Right.
I'd show up and I'd be like, hey, where's the pin today on 3? And he'd be like, well, I didn't know that was my responsibility. I didn't know that I had any part of that.
I knew it was my responsibility, just I didn't know you'd want it from me.
So something that has evolved a lot is I rarely ask you now. Well, I still ask you, but there's almost no time when I ask you if you've done something and you say, forgot, sorry, I'll get on it now. It's pretty much already done for me. From make sure all the balls in the bag are freshies. That's important. Make sure that the balls, I've marked the balls. Make sure that we have tees, ball markers, and importantly, make sure the pins are marked in the yardage book. Those are things that you didn't have down yet. And here's why that's important, right? The less that you leave for a player to do, just the more energy they have to focus on shots and relaxing and doing the things that they need to do to prepare to hit better shots.
So that week, the first week in 2020, I remember thinking about what a grind it was because the weather was terrible all week. Mm-hmm. Are those the kind of weeks that make the grind worse, better? Is there no difference? Like, does the shit weather will make it worse?
The only thing that bad weather could be worse with bad weather is bad company. So I was screwed that week. It's amazing that we've made it to this point, but no, there are just pictures of us, and somehow we found a way to have fun, and I think that's kind of how our relationship grew. Is the weather was super challenging. We kind of found our way into contention on the weekend. Played with Will Zalatoris in his last Korn Ferry start ever, and he was vying for the win on that last day. But the weather leading up to that final round was horrific, and we were just laughing and joking the whole time, and we shared an affinity for stand-up comedy, and we were just throwing jokes back and forth. And I think to take all the pressure off in that way, it's such a much better way to deal with the challenging elements that are totally out of your control.
And I think that's what the caddy, our friendship, caddy relationship works, is Mark doesn't like to grind in between shots very much, so we talk about anything but golf.
I just don't have the bandwidth for it.
Yeah.
It's only so long throughout the day I can be stressed out.
Yeah, is that it, Mark? Like, you just want it, like, you live your whole life in the golf world, and obviously on a tournament week, it's from Monday practice round, Tuesday practice round, Wednesday if you're in the Pro-Am. Is not grinding in between shots really just a mental skill of not wearing yourself out?
Yeah, for sure. And the longer you play, the more you realize how necessary it is. I've been fortunate to play with some people who have been very successful in sports, And I asked this really high level pitcher once, what he does or what he did in between innings. Did he sit there and think about pitching, and did he sit there and think about what am I going to throw next? Should I, be throwing the changeup or the slider or the curve? He's just like, no, man. He's like, I got away from it. I didn't want any part of it, and I just kept my body warm and just stayed relaxed and loose. And, we told jokes in the dugout. And I mean, this guy's one of the best of all time. If that's what he does, I probably shouldn't be wearing myself out when I'm not actually having to perform in that moment.
So one of the things that I wrote about and I talked about is when I caddied for you in Chicago in 2021. We'll go back to Vegas too, but I mean, it's not great weather, but it was fine. We're well within the cut line, 3 or 4. Not really thinking about the cut line at that point. Obviously thinking about a couple more birdies I can be in contention. It starts to shit rain. It's going sideways. The game goes with it. Like I think we bogeyed 3 of the last 4 or something to miss by 1. Ended up missing by 2, but that's because you basically had to run it, making the cut. Like how quickly, to me, that was the most miserable I've ever seen you. How quickly do the moments like that, weeks like that go away? Or do you think about weeks like that often? I mean, how do you get rid of weeks like that?
Yeah, I think part of being a high-level professional golfer, high-level athlete, is the failures, or at the time what feel like failures, take time to recover from. And when you first start, it takes much longer. And then as you build up, more scar tissue and resilience to that, your recovery time becomes a lot faster. And so, that night we had kind of a sad dinner. I mean, I was melancholy. I called my wife, and, being away from her at that time, I'd been on the road for weeks and weeks, and it was a difficult time. We had a little guy at that point, and I'd been away from my family for a long time. So that's the stuff that makes it, kind of feel worse, is like I'm away and I didn't perform like I know I'm capable of, like I had prepared to. And it kind of can at times feel like for nothing, because, you're not bringing your family home anything to show for it. But that being said, I think it might have taken me a week to recover from that early in my career. And the next morning, I bounce up and let's get back on the horse and make this a better day than yesterday.
So, I mean, we've kind of had, thinking back now, doing this interview, but you were first alternate in Las Vegas. I mean, these are the things that people don't see, right? I mean, we were literally at a smoothie place at noon and on the first tee at 1:30. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get in, had you paid me, Mark doesn't pay me, everybody.
No.
It's cheap.
In friendship, right. In tolerance.
Like if you had a regular caddy those weeks and those kind of things, I mean, you would have been in the whole $3,000. Is that what, I mean, that is the grind, right? Like that's what everyone doesn't see. Sitting on the range, had I not been there, no one would have known whether you got in or not, or most people wouldn't outside of your friends and family. Are those the hardest parts of being a professional golfer that people don't see?
I think the hardest parts of being a professional golfer, or really chasing any dream, is that there's so many more down moments than up. I mean, the up moments are exhilarating and you're ecstatic and they're thrilling, and often they are actually seen and they're on camera and you get praise for it. And, those validate all of the other things that would kind of be under the umbrella of the grind and what is actually the most difficult. And that is that it takes a lot of work, and there's just as failures accumulate and build up, and how do you continue to push yourself, continue to stay motivated when it feels like all you're doing is banging your head against a brick wall? How do you finally break through that? And so that's the hardest part, is in those moments, just staying up, staying motivated, and finding a way to the next step.
So things like Pebble and Barracuda the last 2 years, are those things that you have to hang on to in those moments of missing the cut or not getting through the Monday and just playing poorly, those kind of things. Are those the things in the self-belief that you have to hold on to in order to get through those 15 or 20 downs to get back to that up?
Yeah, you always memory bank the successes, and if you're smart, you're just feeling that emotion of the high that you experienced and trying to let the other stuff go. And so, I memory bank the drive on 11th hole at Pebble or at Monterey Peninsula, and the drive on 16 this week, which is our 34th hole leading up to making the cut. The bomb that I made on the last hole on the 54th hole right before the cut at Pebble. Those are the things that you have to hang on to, that in those dark moments remind you that it's all worthwhile and that you're not that far off.
So does making 3 for 3 cuts, what do you, if you don't ever get a PGA Tour card, what do you take from those? That positives that there's so many people that didn't make it, or negatives that you were good enough but the breaks just didn't happen? What do you look at though? Are you able, even though you're still playing, to look at that and talk about what it means to your career or means to you personally once your career ends?
Yeah, those will be things that I'll look back on really fondly, and I'll know that, I competed at the highest level and I had a measure of success that the vast majority, 98% of professional golfers would have loved to have had those experiences. But they also push you to want to get back there, right? It's kind of like a drug. You get that high and then you're just trying to get that high again. So, it's probably going to just keep pushing me to enter more events, to try to better myself, to just find my way back into those moments.
Do you still believe 100% that you can play on the PGA Tour? You and I have talked a million times that you feel like this is the best you've ever played as an overall picture. Do you still believe that?
So this is going to be like a more honest, nuanced response, but I've played with enough of the really top players to know that's not me, right? I'm not Will Zalatoris. There's just such an elite group of players at the top. And then there's another group who they can win, they can contend, and they can do it a few times a year. And I think, I can be in that category. And for those players, they can have a very nice career. They can earn a lot for their families, and they can get to live their dream while they do it. And occasionally they get to beat, the upper echelon players. So that's kind of my more, 360-degree view of where I am, having played for as long as I have.
Let's go back to Barracuda last year. Monday, you get through. We make the cut relatively easily. You played not great on Saturday, decent on Sunday. We're walking up 18. Did you think your career, the conversation you and I had, I felt like you were pretty much set that might be it.
Yeah, and it felt like, because leading up to that event, I've been playing well but not scoring well, and a good week for me was to make the cut rather than have a shot at winning and getting a PGA Tour card. And coming into that, the Barracuda Monday, I just had absolutely no expectation. And often when you enter a round of golf with no expectation, that's when your very best stuff shows up. And there was just, there was no worry, there was no panic. And I think at the end of that, I was very realistic in the possibility that I haven't been here. That was my best finish of my career to that point. I hadn't been here before, and it's very likely I won't be back here. So I just wanted to enjoy it in case that was the situation.
Pebble, there's so many memories. I think for a soundbite, you should tell the story. It's 12 that you just referenced. It's Saturday, which is the cut day at AT&T, because it's a 3-course rotation. You've birdied 10 and 11, and 12 is a par 5. The carry is 315. We're back on the tee and we're discussing whether you should lay up with a 3-wood or hit driver. It's downwind, and Mark's pretty long. So just that whole sequence is one of my favorite memories of our time together.
So that hole comes after this super beautiful, picturesque par 3 with one of just the most stunning views on the Monterey Peninsula. And then you get on that tee and you're playing this like slight dogleg right. The road protects the right side, and then it's ocean, and it's just rocky shore and waves crashing over. And in the practice round, I'd only hit driver and covered this little ravine that cuts across, separating the fairways. And that morning I had been watching the coverage, and everyone had laid up. Jason Day had hit driver, like 10 yards short of that. And the wind was less down than it had been in the practice round. But I had so much adrenaline. And so we had 3-wood, and I thought I could maybe hit this 3-wood into that penalty area. And so I went and grabbed driver, and there was a lot of risk, at least seemingly a lot of risk at the time. And then it left the face just like a launched spaceship. And we just started walking after it, and there was oohs and ahs. And then you are walking off the tee, and you turned to Fluff and you said, "Hey Fluff, how did I do as a caddy? What did you think of the decision there?" And he said, "Ryan, when you got a gun, you turn it loose."
And Jacobson said, "I don't know what the hell we were doing back there for 3 minutes discussing clubs, just hit driver."
Peter Jacobson, yeah.
Yeah. So
he had dreams of flight.
to me, Mark, one of the people ask, "What's the grind?" all the time. And I think of Sunday in the car after we played Pebble. We had an unreal week, like a dream week at a dream place. Played well, had 2 bad holes on Sunday, didn't have your best stuff, made some mistakes, both of us, me as a caddy, and shoot 75, finish whatever. And that ride leaving Pebble after a dream week to me is the grind. Like, take me back there. I try not to remember this, but
that last day at Pebble was just really difficult. We had swirling winds. Pebble Beach greens are incredibly small and very undulating, and that's what you don't get when you watch it on TV. It's just the scale of the holes compared to the greens. There's just not much space to hit a green regulation. And you have to really be on the right side, and the course makes you play along the ocean. And you can play away from the ocean all day, but it gives you impossibly difficult angles into these tiny greens. And there was so much, it was just a lot of wind, and it was swirling, and it was tough to get a read on it. And so I had been playing kind of away from the ocean all day, which left us in some difficult spots. And the guys in our group, we played with Davis Riley, we played Lonto Griffin, and they were having the same struggles. They were, backing off shots, and they were indecisive. And I just kind of fought, and finally I'd make birdie on 11 to get back to even par for the day, which was it was a good score for the day. It was going to move me up the board. And those holes turn inland, they go back up the hill. So, the ocean is on the peripheral view. And this tee on 12 is back kind of hidden in trees and bushes. And you got actually home is probably as close to the course as you've been all day. And this wind was just swirling around. And based on where it had been in the last hole, I made an assumption about it and just totally misread the wind. I tried to hit like a little chip 5-iron and hit a little higher and just pulled it a touch. Thinking the wind was hurting, it was actually helping, and we just flew it over the green. And then, I saw the clubs that the guys playing after me hit. They had learned from that and realized that it was actually a helping wind. So that was the first mistake. And then just the mistakes compounded. I made one more mistake misjudging the wind that led to another bogey, and hit one, a simple layup shot. It was just the bread and butter. Like, it's almost a no-brainer. You don't give it any energy. I hit a layup shot out of bounds on 14, par 5. So I ended up shooting 3 over that final day, but they were such simple mistakes. They weren't, yes, they were execution errors, but they were execution errors that were compounded by bad decisions. And that's just the worst combination in golf. It's the most costly there is. So when we finished, there was this really disappointing feeling despite having such a dream week and, a storied venue as Pebble.
Yeah, I mean, that was what hit me, is like less than 24 hours earlier we had made the cut. We're standing on the hill at a house that Fire Pit had. We're overlooking the course, and it's like, wow, this is a dream come true. This is it. And we were T19 or whatever we were when we teed off. And then the car ride less than 20 hours later, and we're like, this is misery.
Yeah.
And that was pro golf to me. Like, inside the ropes is, you can go from not the top of the world, but we were very pleased to, like, this sucks in 24 hours.
Let me flip this conversation a little bit.
Sure.
Let's go back to the beginning when you started caddying. You had caddy experiences with your dad. You guys used to take trips to the various Canadian Tour events, and you guys would have a week and some father-son bonding time out on the golf course while you'd be carrying professionals' bags. And that's partially how you learned to love the game. What did you expect being a more mature, adult from those early experiences at caddying when you started caddying, and how did those expectations compare to reality?
Yeah, I think caddying has given me like such a great insight. I mean, obviously I'm a golf nerd, but I think I can talk on a more educated level than ever, because we've kind of lived a lot of experiences,
Right.
like the Mondays and first alternate and those kind of things. So to be inside the ropes for those things, I always say, is like that missing the cut in Chicago taught me, I can say like, oh, that was miserable, because I can see a scorecard, but to be there and feel those last few holes and feel the cut line, like getting closer and closer, and it's pouring rain, and we look over and we see the cut line on the electronic scoreboard, and we're hoping for a delay or anything, and we can just feel it squeezing in on us. And obviously we don't say anything to each other about the cut line, but I mean, it was miserable, obviously, but it taught me a lot. And all of these experiences did. I mean, I think that, I don't remember what hole I thought it should have been 2-iron, and we hit 3-wood or whatever this week, and I should have spoke up more. We talked about it, but I don't remember what hole it was. But
how do you balance that when I've picked a club, or when I seem to be somewhat indecisive? How do you know when to say something? How do you know when to be more reserved? How does that calculation work?
I haven't slept since Pebble. Just kidding. I think, like, I used to manage restaurants, so managing people and feeling what people want back from me was my job. So I think that is the easiest part of caddying for me, is you got to know when to shut up. You make 2 or 3 bogeys in a row, there's a time to have a rah-rah speech, and there's a time to just let you fume. I think that part it's not easy by any means. I don't get it perfect, but it's the easiest part. And so I think I can read, like, when you say I'm not sure, you're really not sure. And sometimes you're like 6 or 7, but you've already chosen in your head, you're chosen your club, so I don't step on that, even if I think that. So I think that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, we've been in so many events now that I feel like I know when to step up and when I don't.
And kind of along those lines, I mean, this is pretty far from your day job. It certainly helps your day job. It gives you an inside track on a lot of things. But talk to me about, how it partners with the Monday Q Info account. I mean, you on a daily basis get so many messages from around the world of golf, and you see and hear so many stories of players in very similar situations to my own. Some are triumphs and some are heartbreaks. Do those experiences make you a more empathetic caddy and partner on the golf course?
Yeah, I think so. I think because I've heard these stories so many times that I can maybe empathize with what you're going through. I'm never a player. I'll never be a player, so I can't get to where you are. But because I've heard and talked to so many players that have gone through everything that you've gone through, I feel like I can be more understanding and empathetic of what you're going through. But again, I'm never going to be a player, but because I've talked to a million players, I might be able to relate to the missed cut in Chicago or, not playing well on Sunday more than I can maybe just a regular caddy.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for that, because you really understand the stakes, what really is at stake. And I think you, in a way that other caddies maybe don't, not all of them, but like there's obviously a wide, as there are for players, a wide range of, a wide emotional spectrum range for caddies. Some caddies, show up, they want to carry the bag, they want to go through the motions, they want to get paid. Some, may feel some emotional connection, they want to help you. But at the end of the day, it's like, hey, where's my next job coming from? And then there are some caddies that will ride or die. And you feel like you're in kind of my same emotional state, where you feel the weight of the moment. As you mentioned, part of that comes from the account, part of that comes from, your background and being with your dad and having an emotional connection and feeling romantic about golf. I think it's why we do so well together, is that we're in very similar emotional boats. But I'm getting questions in player dining now. It's like, hey, you gonna give up your caddy anytime soon? Is he gonna be available? What are you paying him?
If DJ calls, I'm leaving.
I'm paying him way too much.
Listen,
you cannot
you're a good
afford
friend,
him, I
but
promise.
I'm looking for a better bag, everybody.
People,
If anybody, Will, if Will Zalatoris is listening.
Yeah, as your friend first, I would encourage you to get on that bag.
All right.
But hold on.
Yeah.
Shit. Along those lines, yeah. So, people.
I hate this is so uncomfortable for me, everybody.
Yeah,
I hate this
you hate
part.
talking about yourself.
Yeah, I
and
do.
that brings me to my next point. Is that not only are people now in player dining like, hey, what's his deal? Is he like a caddy full time, or like, is he giving up the account? Does he want more money? People are starting to see you, recognize you, from afar. I mean, these professional players are seeing you like, oh man, that's Monday Q Info. You know what I mean? That's the face behind the account.
I can't tell you how bad I'm sweating right now.
and people are becoming familiar, and I'm always intrigued when people meet you for the first time. They're like, I was expecting you to be taller, or you weren't what I expected. Or last week I think someone said you were more handsome than they expected you to be.
It's super awkward.
So talk about all this stuff, right?
I can't. It's so awkward.
The account has become.
This is going to be the blooper reel of this whole situation.
The account has become something that's like, you can't get through a conversation about golf Twitter without a Monday Q reference. And from where you started, did you ever, in your wildest dreams, expect that other professional golfers at a tour event would come up and kind of geek out a little bit about meeting you?
I mean, all of it is surreal. Mark's heard this a million times, but I've said if I made a list of the craziest things that would happen when I started this account, none of the stuff that's actually happened would be on there, because I thought it was too ridiculous. I mean, it's all ridiculous, all of this. The first time a person asked me for a selfie, I don't even ever want to think about that picture becoming public, because it was so awkward. And the fact that I'm somewhat used to it now, people asking for selfies, it's bizarre that I'm used to it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just do it, and I go, oh, that shouldn't be normal. It's not normal. So super awkward. Please stop talking about me. So let's talk about the last thing about the grind that kind of sums it up, and then we'll move on to GOLFTEC, is Barracuda, a very special place, obviously, to you and I. And we finished, and we had another solid week. Obviously not the weekend we had really hoped for, but perfect. And 10 minutes later, 5 minutes after you signed your card, we are in the parking lot, and our crap is spread all over. Like, that's the grind. So, like, take everybody kind of back there.
Well, we're walking the 18th fairway, I think maybe first or second round, and we look down and there's just this lush, pristine, velvety turf in the fairway. It's the kind of thing you just want to sleep on. You don't want to take a divot out of. And I said, green velvet would be a pretty good. I mean, it's green velvet, right? Be a pretty good name for like a weed
We're in
strain.
Colorado.
Yeah, it's fine. And so we finished in the 72nd hole. We walk off. There's a bunch of people there who we need to thank for coming out and supporting us. And we just had an incredible group of people that came out. Some of them watched every single shot for the whole week. And then we made our way to the parking lot. And we were I was feeling mixed emotions. The event is over. That's the last great golf opportunity on the PGA Tour that was on the horizon. And it's all done. And this thing that I had built up and worked for has come to its conclusion. And then we get to I made the cut. I made a nice check. I got a couple more points on the board. I had this wonderful experience with a great friend. And then you get to the car and it's 100 degrees in the parking lot and all your belongings are scattered about the car.
GOLFTEC sent us a bunch of free stuff.
GOLFTEC, they gave us a bunch of really nice shirts and hats and towels, and we are already overweight. So we've got to get all this stuff and juggle it around in between bags and leave almost immediately to go to the airport.
Unshowered, 100 degrees.
Yeah, unshowered. Nobody wants to sit next to us
No one.
on the plane, that's
No
for
one.
sure. To get to the next Monday qualifier to try to run it back the next week. So you just go from the dream on green velvet to the grind, trying to make weight at the airport and make a flight, all in the span of an hour, and it's sobering. And that right there is that's the transition to back to the grind.
Yeah, it really is. All right, GOLFTEC. I can't remember. It was a tournament right before was the first time you went to a GOLFTEC. So do you remember what tournament it was? We called Chris.
Pebble.
Oh, it was before
AT&T.
Pebble. Yeah. So just tell your experience at GOLFTEC.
So I'm in Phoenix, and just in my general area between Tempe and Gilbert and Scottsdale, we have 4 locations. One just opened in Tempe, and it's stunning. I mean, state of the art. It's as modern and just an incredibly convenient location right in the heart of Tempe marketplace. And so my first trip to GOLFTEC leading up to Pebble to prepare, I went in there and I was able to work on spin rate and get all the exact carry distances. I don't have, a TrackMan or a flight scope the way a lot of other PGA Tour players do, probably similarly to the way, most country club players, most players that play at their local course wouldn't have access to it. And it was just so simple. Just got in a bay. I got to hit, a bunch of shots. They had a couple of different turf conditions for the mats. And I got to look at, path and spin rate and carry distance, and you can get as in-depth as you want with all those metrics, but you have access to the same information that the PGA Tour players do day in and day out on the range of a tour event. And so that really, helped me just kind of especially get my carry distances kind of perfected leading into the week. And at the very basic level, if you can kind of have a pretty specific idea with how far your ball is going to travel, you're just going to become a much better iron player and give yourself more opportunities. And that's really what I took away going in. I felt just super comfortable with how far I was carrying my irons.
And so obviously that can translate to someone who's a 20 handicapper who wants to be a 10. I mean, they have the numbers you're looking for and how to fix them. A person on the range knows none of their numbers or what they mean or how to fix them, right?
Well, and it's so exaggerated too. I mean, I play at home with friends and in pro-ams, And if there's one consistent theme, it's that like the average player, they don't play enough to really know how far they hit the ball, and B, they just want to believe they hit the ball farther than they do. And so, on the Saturday morning group, there's a little bit of ego involved with saying, I hit 7-iron on the front of that 200-yard par 3. And then the next guy gets up and he's like, well, you hit 7, I bet I can get 7 there, when you've got realistically no chance. You're going to dump it into trouble in the front. Ultimately, it's going to lead to you having a less enjoyable day. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a very, very, basic idea, but it's so important in really making improvements in your game.
And we say this all the time. If you're a 15 handicapper, don't buy the new driver. Don't buy the new irons. Go to a GOLFTEC and get some lessons.
Start there.
Yeah.
Yeah, start there. And then once you work with somebody who can really help you not only with your swing, but with your equipment, what equipment would be best for you given the data that is put in front of you, that just optimizes kind of every facet of your game, ultimately just helps you improve faster.
All right, so Colorado Open week, like you're just back in it. Like do you have to just look at any tournament you play as the next, you have to get a mindset that although we went for the Barracuda, the Colorado Open, you want to win this as badly as you do the Barracuda.
Yeah, and no matter where you're playing, I think whether you're playing in your Friday night league or your club championship or the state open, no matter where you're playing, you want it to be just golf, and you try to be as consistent as you can in your preparation and your routine and your execution. And so that gets lost a lot, and the farther up the golf food chain you make it, the more difficult it becomes. You see so many players graduate to the PGA Tour, have a lot of success, and then the bright lights come and all the extra pressure and everything that comes with being on the biggest stage, and you're not able to make it just golf. And so whether it's the Barracuda or the Colorado Open, I want to play my very best golf, and that's always my goal. And the goal this week is to put myself in a position to win, but get better every day, just improve a little bit every day. And even if you don't win, but you take away something from the round, you've won in a sense, and you can take that with you as you advance.
And my caddying skills get better in a cart. Mark Baldwin, thank you. Thanks for taking me along on all these crazy rides. Thanks to GOLFTEC now for the support of us and Mark. And till next time, till we hoist the Colorado Open trophy.
Yeah, we'll do this again.
All right.